Okay, we are live here, getting rid of all of our tech glitches. So, welcome to the interview series. And I want to introduce you to my new friend, Christine Stallard. And I'm going to let you guys know that we are streaming live into my Facebook group, onto my YouTube channel, and into LinkedIn Live. So drop something in the chat and let us know where you are watching from. And anything you have for questions, go ahead and drop in the chat too. I'm going to keep an eye on those as we're talking to Christine and hearing her story, and then we will get to those at the very end. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. And if you're new to me, I'm Valerie Mummert. I'm a women's life coach. And I like to get your someday dream, that thing that you keep saying you're going to do someday when, the kids are older, when you retire, when you have more money, more time, and get that out of your head so you stop talking about it and actually start doing something with it. So you can find me on my website at valeriemummert.com. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce Christine and have her tell you what she does, who she serves, and how she does it. So take it away, Christine.
Oh, first of all, thank you, Valerie, for having me. This is going to be so much fun, and I'm just really excited about it. So thank you so much. So let's see, where do I start? I guess who I am now is way different than who I was, but we can talk about that later. So now I'm what I call a new age retirement coach. And I'm the creator of an online community and online group coaching program called the Retirement Reimagined Academy. And I've created a proprietary roadmap that arms high-achieving women who feel lost after leaving a career with the mindset tools and specific steps they can take to rediscover themselves and design a new chapter and step confidently into it. It's all based on my book that I wrote, Your Next Chapter, Dream It, Design It, Live It. So it's all in the book as well, or some of it, most of it's in the book. But that's what I'm doing now, which I said is way different from what I was doing before, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You can find my book on my website at christinestallard.com.
Okay.
There's a link to it in there and a little bit about the book.
And you also, and also on Amazon, right? So through your website or on Amazon. Yeah. Okay, great. And I'll drop that link too in the chat in just a second. So Christine, tell me a little bit about where you started, like when you went to college, or you went into the corporate world. How did you start? Was it a job that you always wanted and you just went right into that, or how did you get started?
I have landed every job since the age of 16, just based on my, I guess, my skills, my ability to learn things, my personality. I can tackle anything, and I think people know that. I went clear through my career with no degree. Through my career. I got my degree in energy and sustainability policy, my undergraduate degree from Penn State, the Pennsylvania State University.
Yes.
At the young age of 62.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and that was a really incredible, unique experience, because at the time I was near the end of a 30-year career in the energy industry. And so I had the incredible opportunity to take real world experience. This is how energy really works out there in the real world, not in the textbook, in the real world. I took that into the classroom. And so my story is I graduated in May of 2017, and I retired from my 30-year career in June of 2017, 1 month later.
So you didn't need your degree to get a job. Why did you go back and get your degree?
It was always a dream of mine to have my degree, and it had to be from Penn State.
Yeah.
Had to be from Penn State. At the time I grew up in Pennsylvania, but at the time I've lived for 44 years in the Pacific Northwest. And so I couldn't, leave my job and go back east to go to Penn State to get my degree.
Yes.
So about 12, maybe more years ago, Penn State opened up their world campus. They created
Mhm.
their world campus. And so the energy and sustainability policy degree program was in world campus. So that allowed me to go
Wow,
back to school and finish my degree.
that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, I set
So
up my chemistry lab was in my kitchen when I took
yes,
chemistry.
yes. So that's got to be fascinating too. For did you have a lot of interaction, like the people that you were going? I almost said the kids you were going to school with. The
The kids.
people, yeah, the people that you were in class with. Was there interactive labs or anything online? Or so,
Yeah.
what did they think
Yeah.
about you having so much experience
You know,
and
it,
going in?
it it was just it was the students, and I shouldn't say they were all kids because we had a lot of military people
Hmm.
that were in the degree program with me. So it was all ages, although I was the oldest one there. But I think I was able to interact and influence and even
Hmm.
mentor a
Hmm.
next generation, so that when it was time for me to retire, I was passing the baton on to some
Hmm.
people that had a more well-rounded
Yeah.
education and
Hmm.
knowledge of what the energy industry was all about. And I believe I was also able to bring that experience to the instructors as well. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
incredible.
That's so cool. That's just so
Yeah.
fascinating to me. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome too that we live in a world where you can do that,
Mhm. Mhm.
because, back not that many decades ago, it was like basically you had to go to college in person, and it was, for not somebody our age,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
exactly,
So
exactly. But
an
that's the way we've
opportunity.
been taught, and
Hmm.
that's how it's been for a long time. You know, you go
Hmm.
to school, you get a job, you stay there for 40 years, you retire,
Right.
and you're done. That is the way it used to be, but
Hmm.
that all is changing drastically, and that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm doing the work I'm doing now, because
Hmm.
when I retired at 62, I mean, I was like, "I've got 30 years left, and I
Yes.
wanna do something," you
Yes.
know? I just
Yes.
didn't know what that was, but it was like, "I wanna do something with my life."
Yeah. So how do you think you figured it out? That was kind of like your pivot was retirement, which is a milestone. It's not a
Mhm,
destination,
mhm,
because when you get there, there's nothing on the other side of the finish line unless you've
mhm,
kind of thought about
mhm.
that. So,
Yeah, that's a great question because I didn't figure it out. It took me a while, and here's what happened. My whole story was more than just one life transition, which retirement is. So mine was I got my degree, I retired a month later. 2 months after that, I was on 5 weeks of mandatory evacuation as a wildfire raged to within 2 miles of my home in Oregon, on the
oh,
Oregon
good.
coast, no less,
Yeah.
where we never have wildfires. Um, 3 months after that, we sold that home. It wasn't even on the market. It was my husband's idea.
Mhm.
So now I'm homeless. I put everything in storage in Medford, Oregon. I have a fortress of boxes with my library, my
Mhm.
pantry, and my office in it. And during that time, we also lost one of our beloved Bouviers to an aggressive
Mm.
cancer.
Oh
So
my
I had
goodness.
everything going on except a divorce, I think. And I was on the
Yeah.
verge of that probably.
It's almost like, and I've been in those places too. For me, it was back in 2021 when we sold a business, we closed a business. It was right after the pandemic. We sold our huge house. I was telling Christine earlier before we came on. We have 7 kids, so my kids are all grown. None of them live at home anymore, so we're empty nesters. And I had a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom house with a yard and a pool, and all the stuff that goes with that. And I'm like, we have rooms we're not using. So we
Mhm.
sold this huge house that we had built 26 years before, and
Wow.
sold the business, did this, did that. It was like
Mhm.
everything that was, your stability or something. If you're going to do life changes, it's like, let's do them all at once. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
almost like I feel like God grabbed the corners of my rug, yanked it, and said, let's see where everything falls.
That's a great way to put it because
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. I was a wreck. I was
Yeah.
just a
Was your
wreck.
husband still working at this point, or had he retired?
No, No, when we moved to Oregon in 2005, he had retired from his
Mhm.
job. He was an extension agent with Washington State University.
Mhm.
So he was extension faculty. And what I'm learning is that it's almost like women and men are different when they retire.
Oh,
All
yeah.
the guys that I know that retire, they're done. They go
Mhm.
to their wood shop, they go golfing, they go.
Mhm.
My husband went to the garden. He's an
Mhm.
excellent chef. And
Yeah.
so, he does all that stuff. And women are like, okay, what's next? I gotta
Mhm.
have something to
Mhm.
do.
What's next is the key phrase. That
Yeah,
is the key
yeah,
phrase, yeah.
yeah. What's next? So you asked about my pivotal moment.
Mhm.
And it really wasn't that whole transition thing. And I'll share it with you, and I hope I can do it without a tear.
Mhm.
At the time, we had two Bouviers,
Mhm.
and I don't have children. We don't have children, and so my Bouviers are my kids, right?
Mhm.
And so we got up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, to leave the Tacoma area where we were staying with my sister-in-law, living with her, which, by the way, we lived for 10 months out of boxes,
Oh
10
my
months with
gosh.
her. So anyhow, we got up at 2 o'clock in the morning to drive down to the Oregon coast to sign the final papers, turn the house over to the new owners. And I was a wreck.
Mhm.
So we leave the dogs, the Bouviers, with my sister-in-law, who's a big dog and horse person.
Mhm.
And a couple hours after we left, she noticed that Kaya my female, was in
Mm.
extreme distress.
Mm.
She gathered her up, took her to the emergency veterinary hospital, where Kaya stayed for 8 days with
Mm.
24-hour care. She had the equivalent of a canine nervous breakdown.
Oh my gosh.
And let me tell you, that was because of me. I caused it.
Mm.
I caused it because I could not control my emotions and where I was. And all of that bad, negative juju
Mhm.
went out to everyone around me, including my animals. And it almost cost her life.
Mhm.
That was my pivotal moment. When my sister-in-law sat me down and said, "You need to stop being so whacked out." And that is when I decided to get myself up, get myself pulled together, figure out what I was going to do, figure out what was going on in my life, figure out how to get back to that confident woman I was in my
Mhm.
career,
Mhm.
and take the steps you need to take to get it done, girlfriend. Just do it.
Yes. Yeah. Did you feel at that point like, okay, I've got, all this success in my career and everything, and I just got my college degree, which I always wanted to do. So now I've got a degree. I had all this success, but I don't know who I am outside of that.
Absolutely.
Outside of that.
Absolutely. That was the big thing. I tell the story in the work that I do, the workshops I hold and stuff like
Mhm.
that, about Hydro Girl. I was
Mhm.
Hydro Girl.
Mhm.
I worked for a hydroelectric generator in central Washington state. We owned 2 dams on the Columbia River, owned and
Mhm.
operated. And that was the start of my career. I spent 30 years as Hydro Girl.
Oh my
And
gosh.
when I left, that was my identity. That's who I
Mhm.
was. And but I was in government affairs. And so I knew
Mhm.
it was time to leave because I was done with the politics. I was done with, all of that. But I had no idea who I was outside of that.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. And I think it actually took even writing the book that it helped me figure out how to rediscover your identity,
Mhm.
how to look back at the chapters of your life and pull out the strengths, pull out your talent, pull out your interest, and separate that from the identity that you had
Mhm.
and use that to create your new identity.
Yeah.
And that's so important because we don't think about that. When we plan for retirement, we don't think about that. We think about money, and that's it.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
mentioned the workshops that you're doing. Can you tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'm holding 3 workshops. I've already had 2. I've got one left coming up next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central.
Mhm.
And these workshops, I call it 5 secrets to finding yourself and your groove.
I love that.
And women in transition, and it's just, I can't teach everything that I learned in my transition. I can't teach everything, but I can give women a few tips to just help them take the next step and let them know they're not going crazy.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just not going crazy.
Yeah.
And so in the workshop, I go through my 5 secrets, and give a few tips on that. And then I introduce at the end of it my Retirement Reimagined Academy, because
Mhm.
doors are open to that right now as well. And in the academy, it's a 5-week group coaching program, and I dive really deep into several areas, but one is your identity and how can
Mhm.
you rediscover who you truly are when you're not
Mhm.
Hydro Girl anymore.
Yes,
You
yes. Hydro Girl sounds like a superhero.
I was a superhero.
That's so funny.
I was so passionate about what I did there. I
Yeah.
really was. I was Hydro Girl.
Yes, yes.
So, so yeah, we dive deep into your identity. We talk about purpose. We talk about how you take those skills and all that knowledge and experience and everything that you have that you've created in your life, how you
Mhm.
take that and turn it into a new purpose.
Yes.
Um, and then we talk about the importance of social connections. What
Mhm.
happens when you leave your career? And with career, it could even be, um, an empty nester.
Mhm.
That was your
That
career.
was your career. It was your full-time job.
You were raising the next generation, and hats off to
Mhm.
you. You were doing
Yes.
something that I knew I couldn't do.
Mhm.
So, but things change. All of a sudden, you don't have those same connections. And
Mhm.
so, how are you going to find new ones? Because
Right.
we are designed as human beings to have human connections.
Absolutely.
It's in
Yeah.
our DNA, it's
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Yeah. And then how are you going to tame those emotions? I call it the emotional roller coaster ride.
Mhm.
And the final one that we deal with is how are you going to now structure your days?
Mhm.
Because your daily structure is gone.
Right.
That whole 8 to 5, or in my case, we worked 4 10s and I was
Mhm.
always on call. So
Yeah.
that structure is gone.
Mhm.
What are you going to do now? What's your
Yeah.
new structure? So we dive really deep into those areas over 5 weeks. Valerie, I have studied during my transition, I studied the mind and how the mind works. It is
Mhm.
fascinating to me,
Yeah.
just fascinating. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. I just studied it as a normal human being, how's it
Right,
going to apply to me, right?
right.
And there are ways that you can tame your emotions and kind of prevent a kaya from happening to you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly, and it is the people you surround yourself with too, and if you're in a corporate job, there's some it's kind of homogenized where you're
Mhm,
all kind of, even though you have different personalities and whatnot, but you all are kind of moving, in the same circles and talking about the same things. And you have a common goal if you're working for a company. So
mhm,
the company goal is your common goal.
mhm,
So that's one of the things that's just been fascinating to me about being an entrepreneur and owning your own business and meeting people from just all different places and
mhm,
that's why I want to do these interview series because I'm just fascinated with people's stories,
mhm.
and then when you really get to know people and ask them what their story is, which is my favorite question, tell me your story. It's just fascinating where people came from because we look at people from the outside and we assume we're like, oh, they probably this and
Uh-huh,
this and this and have
right.
just no idea
Mhm,
about, wildfires and evacuations and home sales and dogs getting sick, bouncing off your emotions and all of that. That's really
mhm,
fascinating. So
mhm.
would you recommend, is this something your workshops in your academy that you're doing, is that for people after they've retired, or do you think that people should start looking towards that before they're even at retirement?
That's a super question. I'm really on a mission to change the way women think about and plan for retirement
Hmm.
so they can have a what I call a whole person plan
Hmm.
before they ever walk out the door.
Yeah.
And then they don't have this meltdown, you know, that I had, this identity crisis, whatever you wanna
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
Um, and I see that as, we really need that. We don't
Hmm.
have it. There are so few retirement planners out there that deal with anything other than finances. Just
Yeah.
Google it. Google
Yeah.
retirement planning and see
Yep.
what comes up.
Yeah.
So, yes, my ultimately, I would love to get to women before it happens, before that
Hmm.
transition, but right now, I'm finding that there are so many that have already transitioned into retirement, and they're just lost. They're thinking, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know who I
Right.
am."
Right.
And it's like I said, it's empty nesters too. There's so
Yeah.
because it's our generation.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
baby boomers, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think, even we're redefining what retirement means, because what I think of it is, it's your job is ending by either choice or circumstance. You
Mhm.
know, if you're an empty nester, you've raised kids, your kids move out, that, eventually on the timeline, that's probably going to happen. There's some parents that have kids in their 30s still living at home and they wish that would happen. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just eventually, you're working yourself out of a job. When I'm raising my
Mhm.
kids, I'm thinking I'm supposed to launch them as functioning adults at some point.
Mhm.
With you, if you're in a corporate job, it's not like, okay, you're this age, you're out the door, because a lot of people are working longer and longer for either
Right.
financial reasons. I think a lot of it's because they don't know what else to do.
Yes,
So they
yes,
just keep doing what they've been doing.
yes.
But if we look at retirement as a job ending by choice or by circumstance, then that gives you the mindset of, okay, what am I going to do next? What's next?
Uh-huh. Right,
And I need to
right.
start thinking about, what do I want to do, and
Mhm.
where can I start working towards that now, which is, for me, it's that someday dream. What have you always said you're going to do someday?
Mhm.
Well, okay, let's start getting a roadmap written out so you can actually
Mhm.
start working towards that,
Yeah, yeah,
instead of
yeah,
just, you're at the edge of the cliff and you either need to jump or turn around and go back or
yeah,
whatever. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you said something a second ago. I think that we have a need to create. We have to be creating something. And it's not just like, I need to paint, I need to bake, I need to, whatever. Or if you're good at organizing, that's your creativity. If you're good at
Mhm,
systems, that's your creativity. If you're good at, big vision and breaking that down, that's all creative endeavors. And
mhm.
I think that our creativity is not just for us, we're supposed to use it to serve other people. And we need to have a hope in a future where it's like, we want to make an impact on the world. We don't
Yeah.
want to just, go play golf for the rest of our life, or,
Mhm,
bunko 5 nights a week or
mhm.
something like that. We want to make a difference as women.
Yep.
And I think that's where we kind of fall off, is, okay, what do I do now? Because I
Right,
need I need to be doing
right,
something, like
right,
you said.
right, and, there are some people that that's what they wanna do. I know
Hmm.
a friend of mine, when she retired from the same industry, she wanted to travel. That's what
Hmm.
she wanted to do. She
Right.
didn't wanna have anything to do with, like, what I'm doing, writing a
Yep.
book, anything like that, no, no. But here's the thing, then the pandemic hit.
Hmm.
What happened to her travel?
Yeah.
And now she's stuck at home, and she
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what I wanna do because 'cause I'm
Yes.
not traveling," you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the other thing I wanted to mention there, you brought something up. In in my academy, I have one of my bonuses is a deep dive into what I call your zone of genius, and
What is that?
that is uncovering your true identity.
Hmm.
So I take, a quiz that I created, and that's another one if anybody wants to take the free quiz. It's
Hmm.
just christinestallard.com/zone of genius.
Okay.
And it's a fun little quiz that I put together. But really, you come up with four different, zones, a champion, a mastermind, a creator, and a leader. And those are all characteristics that you can start to build upon to figure out who you really are, where your strengths are, where
Right.
where your possibilities are, where your opportunities are. And here's where mine landed. So I'm sort of a creator and a leader together.
Yeah.
When I started uncovering my zone and looking at my chapters of my story up to this point, I figured out that I loved to write. I loved to write. So in my career, I wrote congressional testimony, I wrote press releases, I wrote safety information, electrical safety stuff, I wrote policies and procedures. Boring, boring, boring. Stick to the facts and that's it, right? So I wrote a book.
Yes.
I write my Bouvier Alley has a blog. She uses my fingers on the keyboard to tell people what's going on in her day.
Oh my goodness.
That may turn into a children's book at some point.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
It's now I get to do creative writing because I uncovered that strength and that love of writing. That's what the Zone of Genius is intended to do. Now, in the Academy, I take that Zone of Genius and I overlay it with what's called the DISC assessment. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's a personality assessment. And so we overlay that and it gives it an additional kind of more of a deep dive into who you are to help you uncover where you may want to go with that.
Right.
And I am so excited about that bonus. I just put it together last month. And the more I put it together and added to it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a gem.
Yes.
This is a gem. I love it.
And it's, the cool thing is too, that if you're open to it, other people can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. And that's what's so cool about doing like a group coaching thing or, the Academy and stuff, is because you will have people call things out in you that you don't even realize. Exactly. I did in one of my retreats that I do for connecting with me, I do one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching, and then I also do retreats. My retreat's called the Purposeful Getaway, where we do a deep dive into a lot of that stuff too. It's, over a 4-day span, and all of that is on my website. But one of the exercises that I did with a group of coaches that I did a retreat for was I paired them up, and then I had them tell each other their stories, and they, had some time, and then they wrote each other's bios based on, like if you and I were telling each other's story, then I would write your bio that would be like a LinkedIn or a social bio or something like that. And you would write mine based on what I told you. And then when we got back together, I would stand up and say, I'm Christine Stallard, and this is what I do, and this is who I am. And I would go through the bio in first person, being you.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. People were in tears because they're like, I would be very impressed with that person, and that's me you're talking about. So it just flips the perspective a little bit to let others call out the greatness in you when you can't see it. So that's really cool. I think that's perfect bonus.
Yeah.
Perfect bonus.
I just I got more and more and more excited about it as I was putting it together. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, so you're doing right now. Let me give a little timeline. Right now, you're doing the workshops, starting the workshops. Where are you at with that?
The final workshop is next Wednesday. I'm going to check the time just to be sure. Next Wednesday, the 18th at 6 p.m. Central. So that would be 4 Pacific and 7 Eastern. Okay. And then and the Academy doors are open now. Okay. So the workshop is free, and I'd love to have you there. I am going to send out a replay. Even if you register and you can't make it, register anyhow, because I'm going to send out a replay on it.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's great, because it's like there's just no way to find a time that everybody can do it. Yeah. So if you go to christinestallard.com/groove,
Groove.
that's where you can sign up for the workshop.
That's the
Okay.
workshop.
And then how soon after are you starting your academy?
The academy is open, so if you enroll, you get access to everything in the academy immediately. So you can binge watch it if you want to, all 5
Okay.
modules, or you can go through it in the 5 weeks. So the academy officially opens on September 23rd.
Okay.
And so that's when I will actually start interacting in the Facebook community that I've set up and doing the group coaching calls and so on.
Okay. So they could actually go in and watch your trainings and stuff now.
Mhm.
And then you'll be doing more of
Mhm.
the interactive coaching and
Mhm.
whatnot starting on the 23rd.
Right, right. I mean, if you enroll now, everything's there. You can go through and start watching it and then be ready for the first group coaching call is September 26th at 3 p.m. Pacific. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then if they just go to the Enroll 2024 on your website, you'll let them know when that coaching starts and how to get into the group and everything else.
That's where
Awesome.
you can
Awesome.
enroll. That's where you can sign up and enroll
Great.
and be ready to rock and roll then.
That's cool. That is so cool. Okay. I'm going to hop back into the comments real quick. Anything else we didn't cover that you want to add?
I don't think so. I'm really happy I got through the Kaya story without
Yeah. So
makeup.
well, we need to know, how's Kaya doing now?
So Kaya last lived to
Mhm.
be 13, so she lived an additional 11 months after that incident. I'm now on my 4th and my 5th Bouvier. Allie is 5.5, and Savannah is a year old. She's a puppy, and she's good at it. So we are, I think my first 3 Bouviers were imposters. If anybody knows anything about Bouviers, they weren't real Bouviers. These 2 are real Bouviers, which is why my husband and I were like, what were we thinking when we did this? But
Yeah.
anyhow, they're fun.
It'll be really fun if you end up turning that blog into a kid's book, a children's book. It would be great. You'll have to come back and tell us. Let me know if you end up doing that. We'll give a shout out because everybody's going to want to get that.
Man, she has such a following. I started it. We drove to Oklahoma to pick her up, and I started her blog on the way back, and it was a weekly blog. And oh my gosh, if I went for a week without posting, everybody's on Facebook is like, "Where's Allie? What's Allie doing?"
So does she have her own Facebook page or Instagram account or anything?
She has her own tab on my website. So if you go into the website I think it's under resources, you'll find an Allie tab.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
About Allie there.
Yes, I dropped that too in the comments that you can go to the resources and read all about the puppy. Yeah. That's so fun. Very fun. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up. I don't see any questions that came in. You just covered everything so well. So it was great to finally get to chat with you for a little bit, and good luck with the workshops and with the academy. And if you have any questions, you can just pop them in the comments wherever you're watching. If you're watching this on replay, if you could just hit #replay and then tag Christine wherever you're watching it, and we'll get those questions answered for you. So
absolutely,
thanks for joining us, guys. It was fun.
Oh, thank you for having me, Valerie. It was so much fun. Thank you.
All right, we'll see everybody later.
All right.